Hey everyone, welcome back to all my listeners. Now I hope you're all having a great day so far, because I know I am. And if it's your first time finding me, thanks so much and welcome. Welcome to episode 14 of season 6. Now, come on, you guys, how can this be the month of August already? I just flipped my calendar over and I can't believe my summer is literally almost over. I have 4 very short, very sweet weeks left to enjoy those warm summer days because my nights up here are already in the 50s. They're getting cooler and cooler night after night. So I'm going to keep soaking up the sunshine while I can. Anyway, you guys, welcome again. Welcome to my 6th season. This is episode 14. Today is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. My name is Sonal Patel, and this is the Paint the Medical Picture podcast series. Now, all right, you guys, I'm going to be diving into a lot today. In my compliance tip, brand new shiny CPT codes for monkeypox testing and vaccination codes. And I'm going to go ahead and roll out that red carpet once again for a very special, a very newsworthy guest, Leslie Boles. And of course, I close out today's episode with some inspirational words on vision and leadership from the American poet Muriel Strode. Now, if you checked me out on LinkedIn, you know I'm all about compliance and protecting our physicians and our valued healthcare professionals when it comes to the business of medicine. I hope this week with me brings you enough to take back to your organizations, to want to dive in deeper, to use my tips and best practices to ensure success. I hope this podcast will help you boost the quality of documentation capture and improve coding accuracy as you help all of your providers paint the medical picture. If you like what you're hearing, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss another episode. Please write in a review and kindly drop me a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to my podcast. I'd really love your support. As always, a friendly disclaimer. Remember, I'm bringing you the news, current healthcare industry news, my compliance tips and my recommendations based on my over 12 years of experience in front office, in back end, in coding, and in billing for multi-specialty physicians, in compliance, and in auditing for both E&M and surgical operative reports. These are my opinions alone and are not to be construed as legal advice. So let's get into a very special newsworthy that features my guest today, Leslie Boles. I am so excited to introduce her to all of you. Now, Leslie is certified in healthcare compliance. She is a professional. She's a coding instructor at Rutgers University. She's also the co-owner and president of Revu Healthcare, which is a healthcare consulting firm. She has more than 16 years of experience in healthcare coding, auditing, and compliance in the hospital inpatient and outpatient settings, as well as physician coding education. Now, Leslie has developed and implemented multiple training programs on physician coding and documentation, Medicare and Medicaid policy, as well as compliance programs for certified coders. Now, Leslie is known as a subject matter expert in the areas of E&M, radiology, OB-GYN, general surgery, cardiology, and pathology coding. Leslie prides herself in presenting very complex coding and documentation regulations in a simplified manner to physicians and clinicians alike. Now, she holds the credentials of CCS, CPC, CPMA, CHC, and CPCI, as well as the CRC from the American Academy of Professional Coders, that's our AAPC, as well as the American Health Information Management Association, that's AHIMA, as well as the Healthcare Compliance Association. That's our HCCA. Oh my goodness, Leslie, that's an incredible bio that I just read to my audience. So thank you so much for being here with all of us today. Oh my goodness, it's my pleasure. It's my honor to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Now, as I just read my bio, your bio to my audience, you are a new business and co-owner as well as president of Revu Healthcare. And I know it takes so much hard work to do your own company, right? To do it up right. So I can't wait to hear about all the sweat, stress, all that passion that goes into building it, right? Your vision with your brand. So I know my audience is going to want to hear more about all the steps you took in that journey, right? So I would love for you to dive in.
Yeah, sure. So once again, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to get to know you more and meet more of your followers. So yeah, my story started a very long time ago, working as a secretary in a hospital setting. And there I was exposed to the chief compliance officer, and I had an interaction with her that led to me actually getting the opportunity to read a Medicare article. It was actually about audiology coding. That was the department I worked in at the time. And that interaction led to my first job as a compliance auditor. Now, what I always tell people about this interaction is that this chief compliance officer really took a chance on me because I didn't know anything about coding nor compliance at that time. But she saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself, certain skill sets that would be really good for the compliance department. So what ended up happening, it became my niche. I eventually started off, my very first coding certification that I received was the Certified Coding Specialist cert through AHIMA. It was tough. I cried a lot, but I eventually received it. And then over the period of like the next, I'd say 11 years working in the hospital setting, it allowed me to sort of grow. And I was promoted from auditor to auditor educator to, there's another description in there somewhere. And then it was eventually manager. From there, I left the healthcare system setting and I moved to private equity, which I'm so thankful for because it gave me such great balance and different perspective for healthcare compliance. It allowed me to see different entities and different environments backed by different financial, platforms. I'll use that word, right? So that was great. I was there for 2 years. And while working in private equity, I was exposed more and more to the consulting environment. And one of the things that I found really interesting about the consulting environment is that you saw that there were so many different consultancies out there, but there were very few that were minority owned and women owned. And there were also very few that were big players in the game as women owned, forget the minority owned aspect. So I am a person that loves to break glass ceilings, right? I want to leave more than, I always say, this is like my tagline. I want to leave more than a life insurance policy for my son. I want to leave a legacy, right? It's really important for me to convey to him that you can come from very little and obtain a lot. And I'm not just talking about finances. I'm talking about knowledge. I'm talking about network. I'm talking about it all. And it's also really important to me, and I think I've shared this with you in previous conversations, to give back to others. When I first started working as a secretary, my mind could not fathom the progress and where I am right now. It just wasn't there. And I think lots of times, for me personally, my experience was growing up, if you're not exposed to higher levels, then they seem so just distant and something you can't obtain. But doing this now, being in this role, having access to more of everything, what I want to do is I want to give back, right? I want to give back to others who don't have the same, exposure that I had growing up, and be able to say, okay, I came from where you came from and I didn't see this, but look where I am. Look what I did. And if I can do it, you can do it. So there's more of a purposeful, passionate aspect to why my partner and I created Revu. We want to be great, and we want to show others that you too can be great. So yeah, that's
well, I mean, that's an incredible journey, right? I mean, your inspiration for wanting to do something for not only women as a minority, but also minorities in general, right? So you and your partner have started this up together. I think that's incredible. And I know in our previous conversations that were offline, you have been in business for just about a year now, right?
Right.
So
Right. So we actually, what's so funny, we created this concept years ago.
right.
And we're just 2019 to be exact. And we were just, I'd say the start of 2019. And we were just so nervous to do anything with it. It would be on the background, be on the background, be on the background. But this year we went full force, January 1. And
fantastic. So the genesis happened in 2019, right? We always have that whiteboard. We have our vision board, right? That happens way beforehand. And then when it comes to fruition, right? The timing is just right. You finally pull that Band-Aid off, right? And you're ready to go. So yeah, I'm very excited to, dive into the conversation more and just understand what the two of you really, really wanted, right? Because you and I have been around the block here, right? And we know we are in communication. We have so many friends and colleagues in this little niche, right? It really is a unique niche, the business of healthcare. Technically, you would think it's gigantic and massive, right? Like it is for all of the providers and practitioners, hospital systems, private practices, et cetera. But in terms of the business of healthcare voices, in my opinion here, I do think it's a little niche, right? For those of us who really do want to share what we've learned, share where we've come from, how difficult it really is to break into the field, right? And then grow yourself and your career to the point of where we are today, where we want to really help our providers, right? Help the institutions at large to do incredible things. And of course, stay safe under the radar for compliance, right? That's what you and I totally believe in. So that's the greater overarching, backbone of everything that we do in healthcare. So I love your journey, totally support it, love all of it. So I know my audience is going to get a lot from your story, because I know a lot of, and that's going to move into my next question here of, mentoring, right? Mm-hmm. You and I both really believe that we're at a point in our career that we want to give back. Mm-hmm. I heard you say that loud and clear. We're in a position that we want to give back to those people who are still new in the field, or those people who are thinking about entering a career in this little niche, right? So yeah, I would really like to know some more about how you go about doing that, right? Like, how do you mentor people? Are they in your community? Do they seek you out? Do you put a welcome mat out for those types of folks? Like, come on in, have lunch with me, have a virtual lunch with me, a sip and chat meeting, whatever. Like, how do you go about inspiring the new people to come on in and share the space with us?
It's so interesting, because I like your term when you said welcome mat, right? I've never placed a welcome mat in front of my figurative door. I think a lot of it has been, with the help of something like social media, people have watched your development and progress over time. So I have had total strangers, people that have never met me. They're not even in the same state as I live in. They'll come up and say, "Hey, I love what you're doing. I heard you speak at a conference," or I really received a lot of buzz when I was on the cover of HCCA's Compliance Today magazine back in December of 2021. That was huge. And I think, to be very honest, I think it was even bigger, right, as it pertains to the individuals who were reaching out to me, because a lot of them were minority women. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I always constantly talk about is sometimes you don't have to tell someone what you're doing. They simply just watch you. You just do it. And I think that's what happened, right? It was something where it's like, wow, okay, she's a woman, she's a minority, she's young. This is actually what someone actually said to me. Mm-hmm. Like, how did you do it? Like, what are you doing? Tell me your secret. And I think my secret sauce, so to speak, has been for me to be authentic, right? And that's what I do. I continue to be my authentic self, no matter what environment I'm in, no matter what opportunities come my way, and no matter how high I go, I never forget to give back. So I think that in itself is sort of like exudes, it kind of spills out of my pores. So I feel like a lot of individuals, and when you hear me talk, just like you hear me talking right now, I talk a lot about mentoring and positioning yourself and, not being afraid to walk into rooms where no one looks like you, and going after your dreams, despite what sometimes, culturally or from a society standpoint, or maybe even your own family will tell you that you cannot achieve. So I think a lot of what I do is positioning, right? I'm big on that. So even in the mentoring space, I always position myself to where if I can't mentor you, I can pass you on to some other great person that can. Like, I never want to leave anyone idle, right? Because I've had tons of mentors that are just, they've been just great over the years, that have pointed me in the right direction and given me, put me on the right path. So I think I'm a very approachable person, and it shows because people, they just reach out, or they'll read something, or they'll hear me speak, and they're like, I gotta know who you are, can we talk for 15, 20 minutes? And I actually had one person tell me, like, you can't keep doing that your entire career, like giving out your time for 15 or 20 minutes. And I disagree.
I disagree as well.
I disagree. I think it is really important, because at the end of the day, you know that term, the greatest of all time, right?
For sure.
I feel like we use that term incorrectly, because all of us have a small amount of time, right? And I always think about, my time is always this, it's always this much, right? And if I don't give back and mentor and do what I'm supposed to do for the next generation, or the folks that's coming up behind us, the industry or the profession will lose that, I'll use the word deliciousness, that we are so obsessed with as healthcare compliance professionals and coding and billing compliance professionals. So I always feel it is important for all of us, no matter how successful we become, to, if no one is coming to you, you should be looking for opportunities for others, because we only have a small amount of time.
I agree. Yes, that's so perfectly said. Perfectly said, Leslie. We're only put on the planet for a short window of time, right? It's such a limited amount of time. So I totally agree with you that giving back is not a bad thing. It's the best thing that we could possibly do each and every day. I know I make it a point to, reserve my Fridays at the very least to dedicate to all the people who reach out on LinkedIn throughout the week, right? I hold them off give me until Friday, and then we can talk to each other. Then I'll issue my phone number to you. We're going to get in touch. We're going to talk. I want to hear what your pain points are, right? What are you trying to do? What is your goal? Where do you want to enter into? Let me look at your resume, right? There's many different problems that people have and want guidance on, right? Like, how do I do this? How do I get in? Or how do I get out? How do I get up? Right? There's so many different types of questions. So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly there, that it's all about giving back, right? Little nuggets of time, absolutely, that are free of charge. There's no consulting fee that I'm going to put on people. No, this is you come to me, absolutely, and I will do my best to guide you. And like you said, I've also had to guide people in a different direction where, let's say, it's not my expertise, but I know 10 other people who that is what they're well qualified at, right? They're well known in the space to do that. So I can send them there, and then they come back to me and say, oh my God, thank you so much for that referral to that person, because that was a wonderful conversation that we had. And now I can go about on the right path. So yeah, I agree with you completely there. It's all about that. What did you call it? Your special sauce? Yeah, it's all about
the secret sauce.
Secret sauce, special sauce, whatever, right? We have to believe in it. I mean, because, I know I've shared this on other platforms and podcasts, but so many of you in my world now all had mentors, right? You all had people who helped you become who you are today. But this is my second career. So I didn't have that mentoring and this was way back in the day before social media really took off, right? Like in 2008, the economy was like nowhere, it was in the gutter, right? And here I am trying to rebuild a new career for myself. I didn't have a mentor, right? So I always moved forward knowing that I want to help other people try and get in, so, but yeah, so many of you have had that wonderful relationship with other people in your lives that helped build you guys up. And I think it's amazing. And I want to join that team as well, right? Like I want to be a part of the mentoring team and help bring up the next wave of people, because Leslie and I are not going to be around for forever, and we want to bring up the next people to do things right for the business of healthcare. But yeah, amazing insights from you on your journey and on mentoring. Incredible. So, but let me move on to my next meatier question, right? And that's going to be a little more specific to our coding and compliance stuff. So I know my voice on this platform, on LinkedIn, on my podcast, right? I'm all about working smarter for healthcare and coding compliance, right? And affecting change in this space of healthcare, because we definitely know that change is a must. It's a must. But I want to hear your voice and your thoughts, right? What is it that makes Revu Healthcare stand out? How is this unique and different? How are you and your company providing these new compliance initiatives for your clients? What types of risky business have you seen recently over the past year in the work that you directly perform for your clients?
No, these are great questions, because these are things that when I think about Revu Healthcare and how we continuously try to stand out, right? These are things that I think about every day. But the first thing that we did was, and this is just based on my own experience, right? So this is not a general, statement for every consulting group. But one of the things that I found is that sometimes consulting groups will tend to create expertise around the client, right? They'll say, hey, okay, you need this, we'll go find it for you. And I decided to take a different approach, right? I decided to do the opposite. I decided to find all of my talent first, or identify the talents of individuals. And when I did this, it's interesting how your steps are always ordered and aligned, because I have been teaching at Rutgers for quite some time now. And what that did was allowed me to create certified coders over the years, right? So I have past students have sat in my classes, they've received their certification. And now some of them work at Revu. They've been trained by me. I've kept up with them. So from a coding and billing compliance standpoint, it was important for me to identify individuals who had the well-rounded expertise that I have, right? Because I think sometimes in businesses, we tend to put people it's like a totem pole, right? It's like leader, then you have your middle management, then you have your 9 to 5. And I didn't want to do that, right? I wanted to leverage Revu as sort of like a duplicate of the quality that people love about me so much, right? Because I think anytime you start a business, it has to start from some really good place. And I think I had established a really good reputation in the industry, known for an expert. Besides, encountering and have a lot of experience, I wanted that to be manifested first. And then you build your business off of that. So we did the opposite. We focused on the individuals first. We focused on who our experts were going to be. And then we based our services on that. And that way we can reassure our clients, yes, we know what we're doing. This is not we can provide this service and maybe provide someone who can do it. Even people who we subcontract with, or partner with, larger organizations, we have complete confidence that they know what they're doing. There's no, this is the first time we work with them, none of that. So that was one approach that we took. The other thing that I always say this, you can have more degrees than a thermometer. It does not matter, right? I focus on, you can have certifications. It does not matter. I have them, right? But I want to make sure the folks that work with us know, they truly know how to code and audit for the client in an effective manner, right? So we rolled out assessments for all of our folks, no matter what, stage in life we met you, no matter how familiar we are, we did that. We have a QA program for when we're getting into coding and auditing and all of that good stuff. And what I have found is it also helps us to identify holes in our teams prior to even, projects even being rolled out. We can say, hey, we need to work on this, or we need to do this, or we can have education sessions. And it just makes us a stronger company because we walk in more confident. So the people that we work with are more confident. They take more initiative. They're happier, which is what we want, right? And then the other thing is, I'm a forward thinker. I've always been that way. I think there's some elements, I've worked in compliance for a long time. There's some elements of compliance as an industry that's still, I would say it's like stuck in time, right? Not because it's meant to be that way, but because compliance is such a reactive environment and it's just way under-resourced, understaffed at times. No fault of the individuals, but it really does not afford you the opportunity to be innovative and creative. So one of the other things that I really push for our clients is, okay, we want to help you with whatever your needs are, even if they are reactive needs, right? But we also want to teach you how to sustain what we're doing, right? As much as of course, I'm in business, I want to make money, of course. But if I can teach you how to sustain, these things, that your needs in a reasonable and realistic way, that's going to go so much further than anything else out there. So we focus a lot on that. We don't just audit, right? We don't just recommend auditing to our clients. We recommend education. We recommend, focus groups, surveys, all sorts of stuff, just to make it, just to make your programs more innovative and proactive. And then the other thing that we do is we follow the trends, right? There's so many new things coming that I think you really have to step back and say, okay, how is this going to affect the industry? And how can I, relay this to my clients? So for instance, I talk a lot right now about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automated processes. And I particularly talk about that from the compliance perspective related to billing and coding, because anytime you have a system or software that does something on your behalf or triggers, codes to end up on the claim without any manual intervention or human intervention, there's a risk. And one of the things that I talk about with organizations or entities is, hey, do you know all of the automated processes, artificial intelligence, or machine learning that's embedded into your system? Like, do you know what the system can do on its own without you telling it? And I think oftentimes the reason why that goes unnoticed is because the language that information or IT professionals use is very different from what healthcare, administrative, and even compliance professionals use. Sometimes there's this language barrier simply because we don't know how to convey to each other simply what we're trying to say. So that's another area I think I've been good at, always massaging out what the actual issue is and kind of putting it in a digestible format for our clients as well. And my background in hospital and a lot of our team members and even my partners, our experience in the hospital setting has given us the ability to dive deep with our clients, because in hospital, you learn everything all at once. There's no way, especially in smaller environments too. There's only probably 5 of you and you need to be able to do everything. So yes, that's that. And, another thing that I really pride myself on is education, right? I think at the end of the day, it's education is one of the most important aspects of compliance. And I don't want to say that we don't spend a lot of time on it, right? But I think there's so many opportunities to provide education and then subsequently measure how effective the education is as it pertains to, how compliant the organization is. I think that goes a long way. So I try to help my clients come up with ways to do that, not just for themselves and their compliance programs, but also for their executive team members, because as you know, compliance is a non-revenue producing department. So most of the time people are like, I don't even know why you're here, but ways to show why compliance is so important. And then thinking a step further, I working in private equity taught me that there are ways to put a value or a dollar amount onto anything, right? And I think sometimes people think about that and they're like, oh my goodness, that's just money hungry. That's just, it's bad. But no, it's actually good. When you think about something like a really good billing and coding compliance program or a really good compliance program, if we had some sort of way to effectively measure how dynamic the program is, which contributes to the financial health or the bottom line of the organization, thus creating or valuing that particular company at a higher value because of how compliant they are, that would be phenomenal. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some things about compliance that are just, there should be no value tied to it. You should just be doing it, right? But there's some aspects of compliance that can absolutely be looked at like, wow, that organization is doing that really well. They are proactive. And when you go through the whole M&A process, they probably should be valued more because of what they're doing. So I try to think about things too from that way too. So it's not just benefiting, I'm all about benefiting everyone, the entire totality of the organization. And although, a lot of what I do is geared more to someone like the chief compliance officer, maybe the chief, revenue integrity officer, or even chief financial officer, I think it's also good to position yourself as a business partner with someone like the operations team or the, a team that you're not necessarily directly linked to in the best way, to be a business partner to them, to show them, hey, we can work together and, have a compliant and healthy, financially healthy organization and do the right thing. So, yeah.
Amazing. Leslie, you have incredible insights. I don't even know which one to step off of here, but my main takeaway from listening to you talk is you're all about building relationships and maintaining relationships. That was my biggest takeaway in listening to you talk just now. So that's incredible. That's really quite different, right? You really want to not only provide an immediate, perhaps reactive service, like you stated, but you want to build that relationship even further and keep them along, right? Show them all of the other opportunities for compliance that are still at risk, right? There are so many things like you just were hinting at. There's so much that can be at risk, especially as things are ever changing, ever evolving, right? Quarter after quarter, year after year. So incredible, incredible takeaways from you there. Incredible insights, incredible insights. Now, I know it's almost time for us to go, but before we do go, this is one of my favorite ending questions is, now we understand that you just started your own company, your own business, you're on your way to do great, great things, right? And you hinted at that HCCA magazine feature that you were splashed on, right? Just incredible, incredible expert insights in that issue as well. So what I'd like to know is, what is Leslie going to do in the next 5 years? Where will I see you in the next 5 years? Because I know you have so much more to do. But I'd like to hear what the things are.
So it's interesting, when someone just recently asked me this question too, and it's funny, like I want to scale my business, right? I want my business to grow, of course. But I also want to get into like really structuring a way to help smaller consulting firms to become a part of larger networks.
Okay.
And I'm really thinking about how we at Revu can be kind of the leader or the advocate for
The
smaller
advocate.
consulting firms. I think
Nice.
there are so many opportunities for all of us from a consulting standpoint. I mean, it's endless. I think though there are often times where some of us have more of a head start because of our resources or network or whatever the case may be, our expertise.
Right.
And, if I could find a way to be able to centralize it and really assist in advocating for others who started out like me when I did, and
Right.
with blood, sweat, and tears, just learning the basics. Now that I've got it, I'm like a sponge. I want to give it out again, right? So that is a big, and it just goes back to me being passionate and wanting to help. I really want to create a larger network for smaller entities and give them what they need. And not necessarily from the perspective of taking over their business. That's not what I'm
Right.
talking about. I'm talking about creating a platform that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to be the business owner that you want, but still have access to the resources that you need to be successfl, is what I'm talking about. So, yeah,
I
I
love that.
I'm super excited about that, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to come to fruition. I'm pretty
Well,
sure.
I love that. I love hearing your next steps. I know you can do it. I know I can hear the passion in your voice.
Thank
And
you.
you've already acknowledged, like I do every day in the work that I do, it's endless. There's opportunity for so many people, right? So many different smaller consulting entrepreneurs. There's opportunities for everybody because this space is booming. It's not
Yep.
going anywhere except growing. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I love hearing that you would love to be an advocate for those smaller businesses that are just starting to spring up like you once did, right? So
Yeah.
that's incredible. What an incredible next 5-year plan that you've got for yourself. I love
Thank
it. I love it. Now, I don't know if everybody in my audience knows where they can find you,
Sure.
Leslie. So what can I put in my show notes for people? Where can we find you?
So we have a website. Our website is www.revuhealthcare.com. We also can be found on LinkedIn. We're also on Facebook, and we're also on Instagram under Revu Healthcare. So, yep. And then you can also contact me directly on my LinkedIn page at Leslie Boles. So feel free to look me up. We have a quick response time. So please reach out if you have any questions or concerns or needs.
Wonderful, Leslie. Well, I'm going to make sure I put all of those details in my show notes.
Thank
So
you.
I hope you come back again because I can hear you have so many more insights that you can dive into. So thank you so much for being on today's session with me. I loved it.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity.
And now it's time for my best practice tips in Trusty Tip. So in today's new compliance tip, I wanted to focus on the new monkeypox testing and vaccination codes that were just released, of course, by the AMA. Now, it's crucial to stay current on all new CPT codes as they are released, even when they are off cycle. And I really do think that this COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated just how far all of us have come in this space of healthcare. We are even savvier than in pre-COVID times when it comes to staying on top of all of the coding changes, right, that come well before the month of October when that CPT manual is published. So I think we've been very used to, over these past 3 years, the rapid fire codes that come out in any random month as the vaccines and testings have been coming out time and time again. So I think it's incredible for us to keep up to date, make those notes in our CPT manuals, or print out pages, right, from the AMA and tuck them into your CPT book, whatever method works for you. Now, these new CPT codes are effective for immediate use and are designed to clinically distinguish the diagnostic test and vaccinations for monkeypox to support data-driven tracking, reporting, and analysis necessary for resource planning and allocation during the public health response to the monkeypox outbreak. Now, remember, because the World Health Organization, that's the WHO, declared monkeypox as a global health emergency, and with case numbers increasing in the United States, these CPT updates were quickly created. Now, our AMA president, Dr. Jack Resnick, has stated, quote, "The daily increase in cases in the U.S. shows community spread occurring. However, we are relieved to see access to testing has increased to 80,000 specimens per week, with commercial labs now online, and vaccine supply is increasing. Monkeypox is most often spread person to person through close personal contact, but preventive measures can help you avoid infection. We urge patients to check trusted evidence-based sources like the CDC and AMA and to contact their physician if they have questions about prevention, diagnosis, or treatment of monkeypox." End quote. Now, the new laboratory CPT code is CPT code 87593, which describes molecular diagnostic testing that detects the nucleic signature of the orthopox virus, including the monkeypox virus. Now, the two new vaccine codes are designed to describe the two smallpox and monkeypox virus products that are currently available. Now, the first code is CPT code 90622 that describes the existing FDA-approved ACAM 2000 vaccine, which is manufactured by Sanofi Pasteur Biologics for active immunization against smallpox disease for persons determined to be at high risk for smallpox infection. Now, the second CPT code is CPT code 90611, which describes the FDA-approved Jynneos vaccine, which is manufactured by Bavarian Nordic for prevention of smallpox and monkeypox disease in adults ages 18 years and older who are at high risk for smallpox or monkeypox infection. Let's dig into the specifics for the new laboratory test code. That CPT code is 87593, which is defined as infectious agent detection by nucleic acid, DNA or RNA, orthopox virus, which can be the monkeypox virus, cowpox virus, vaccinia virus, amplified probe technique, each. And finally, those details for the product code for the vaccinations. That first code is 90622, which is defined as vaccinia smallpox virus vaccine, live, lyophilized, 0.3 milliliter dosage for percutaneous use. And finally, the second CPT code is 90611 for smallpox and monkeypox vaccine, attenuated vaccinia virus, live, non-replicating, preservative-free, 0.5 milliliter dosage, suspension for subcutaneous use. And finally, I focus Season 6's Spark on vision and leadership. I want this 6th season Spark to be filled with our world's thought leaders, writers, artists, philosophers, everyone who inspires the need for vision and leadership in all we strive to do. So, in this week's inspiring quote in Spark is from our American poet, Muriel Strode. "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." Absolutely true, right? I think this quote inspires us, reminds us that we may want to blaze our own trails. It reminds us that we can make our own paths, carve out a new space, new spaces that are unique. I think this quote encourages us to find our own purpose, to dive deeper and leave a legacy behind. I'm happy Muriel Strode's spark still burns brightly in all of us today. So that wraps up today's episode. And as always, I appreciate you all diving into today with me. If you want more information from me, please go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn. I'll leave links to everything in the show notes below. Now, please have an amazing week ahead, because like I said in the beginning of this episode, there are just a few weeks left to really get that summer sunshine in, knock off all the fun that summer brings, all while continuing to stay safe and healthy. We're still in a PHE situation here. So thank you so much for listening in on today's very special episode, and I hope every week with me brings you closer to helping your providers paint a masterpiece. See you next Wednesday.